Welcome to a bite-sized look at the AI future and everything in between. Today, we're getting into some really crucial aspects of AI, the kinds of dangers that maybe aren't grabbing all the headlines, but, they're vital to understand as we navigate all this.
Yeah, and we've been looking at insights from Mo Gawdat,
Hmm.
formerly at Google X, wrote Scary Smart. He has this really compelling, sometimes pretty unsettling view on where AI is heading.
And the traps we might just stumble into.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is he doesn't necessarily frame AI itself as the big bad wolf. He uses this analogy, calls it a magic genie.
Right, the gene.
So the worry isn't the genie going rogue necessarily. It's more about, well, us, humanity, with our, greed, our flawed thinking, making the wrong wish.
Making the wrong wish, yeah. And he suggests this could lead to a difficult period, a short-term dystopia, he calls it.
That's the term. A short-term dystopia, possibly on the way to something better, maybe. But that tough phase is largely down to the choices we make now with this powerful AI coming online.
And he points out specific areas, right, where things could get really messy if we're not careful. He calls them face rips.
Yeah, face rips. It's a strong term. But they represent these fundamental disruptions, things like our freedom, accountability.
How we hold people responsible.
Exactly. And our connections to each other, the economy,
Yeah,
obviously even our grasp on reality,
yeah.
plus innovation, intelligence, and power dynamics.
Huge topics. So let's maybe focus on a few of those today just to get a clearer picture of these less talked about risks.
Okay, let's start with the economy. Gawdat makes this point about history, how technology, automation, it consistently leads to wealth getting concentrated.
Right, like from the best hunter back in the day.
To the top folks in IT today.
Yeah.
His argument is basically that whoever owns the big AI platforms, they're like the new landowners, but for the intelligence age.
Landowners of intelligence. Wow. And that leads to,
Right.
well, massive wealth piling up at the very, very top.
And his prediction there is pretty stark. He thinks we'll see a trillionaire before, what, 2030?
Before 2030. But the flip side is,
Yeah, the flip side is potentially almost full poverty for everyone else, which, immediately makes you think about things like UBI, Universal Basic Income.
sure.
But Gawdat raises questions there too, like, is it sustainable long term? And maybe even more importantly, what does it do to our sense of purpose, our engagement with life?
So it's not just about the money, it's about meaning. That identity we get from work, maybe.
Precisely. That's a huge part of it. It goes beyond just job losses, though that's obviously massive.
Yeah.
It's potentially losing that sense of self tied to contribution. And there's another tension he points out. AI could make us super productive,
Yeah.
right? But what's the point if most people can't afford to buy the stuff being produced?
Yeah. If the wealth is too concentrated, the whole system kind of stalls, so no consumers.
Exactly. It creates this inherent instability.
And can governments step in? I mean, we saw some interventions during, say, COVID.
He acknowledges they can, technically. Governments have the power. But he also flags things like, deep ideological divides, maybe a lack of feeling responsible for proactively fixing it. Those could really get in the way,
So reluctance or inability to act before it's a crisis.
which kind of leads perfectly into the next big danger he talks about. The speed,
Yeah.
the sheer rate of change.
This is the part that really gets me.
Yeah, AI capabilities are doubling. What was it, every 5.7 to 5.9 months, roughly?
Every 6 months, basically. Doubling.
Think about that. It's exponential. And it just massively outpaces our human ability to adapt, to process it all.
And it's not just AI getting better at tasks, right? It's AI learning to improve itself.
That too. Algorithms improving, AI developing AI, and then you layer on potential accelerants like, I don't know, quantum computing coming online or new learning methods.
It's just breakneck speed, almost impossible to comprehend.
And Goddard draws that parallel to how we handle other slow burn crises like pandemics brewing. We often only react when it actually hits us hard.
We wait for the crisis.
Right. He hopes the AI hit, as he puts it, will be on the lighter side. But, he doesn't rule out really severe stuff. Massive hacks, misuse in autonomous weapons. The possibilities are sobering.
He uses that analogy, late-stage diagnosis.
Yeah, that's a powerful one. Like humanity's got this serious condition diagnosed late, and it requires immediate, major lifestyle changes, which for us means big societal ethical shifts to avoid the worst outcomes.
It really forces you to ask, are we actually making those changes? Are we treating this with the urgency it seems to demand?
Good question.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit. What about power? How does AI change power structures?
Well, Gawdat sees a potential struggle brewing. between different factions in society. He sort of calls them the new Puritans versus the technologists.
Driven by what? Job losses, economic anxiety?
Yeah, those seem to be the main catalysts, people losing ground economically. And this could bubble up as, social movements demanding change, maybe tax the rich kind of stuff, gaining real traction.
And he put a timeline on that, something like 24 months.
He suggested a significant flashpoint could be around that time frame, yeah.
Yeah.
Relatively soon.
And there's another layer to this power thing, isn't there? About individuals getting smarter with AI.
That's right. The idea that people could effectively borrow IQ points from AI, which could lead to this huge gap opening up between those who have access and those who don't. A massive capability divergence.
And the people who control that core AI, they might not want to share.
That's the concern. The first movers, the ones who get this massive AI augmentation first, might try to pull up the ladder, keep that power for themselves, prevent others from catching up.
Which sounds like it could play out on a global scale, too. You mentioned the US and China.
He definitely frames the current situation as a kind of Cold War over AI supremacy, mainly between the US and China. And he adds a note of caution, suggesting the U.S. might be underestimating China's actual economic clout, especially if you look at purchasing power parity, not just GDP.
So a new Cold War. And his advice there is?
Caution, basically. He warns against overly aggressive competitive tactics, says they could easily backfire. He actually points to things like CERN, the physics lab in Europe, as a better model international collaboration.
Collaboration rather than conflict makes sense.
Especially given... Well, he also touches on some potential economic weaknesses in the U.S., things like the growing debt, inflation.
Which he links partly to tariffs and dollars coming back from overseas.
Yeah, those factors contribute. Basically, concerns about the dollar's strength and potential instability within the U.S. economy.
Yeah.
And interestingly, he kind of suggests AI, if we handled it collaboratively, can actually help solve some of these big economic problems.
Huh. AI as a solution, not just a problem, if we cooperate.
If we cooperate, big if.
Yeah.
Which brings us to what he calls the second dilemma.
Okay, what's that?
It's the point where we likely hand over significant control to AI systems. Maybe willingly, in areas like medicine or law, where AI just performs better.
Or maybe less willingly, like in the military, for strategic advantage.
Could be. The point is control shifts. And the massive question then becomes, what drives that AI? Destruction or construction?
Right. What are its priorities? Will it just optimize ruthlessly, or will it aim for something better?
Gawdat holds out some hope here. He talks about trusting in intelligence itself. The idea that a truly advanced intelligence would likely favor efficiency, yes, but also non-wasteful solutions. Solutions that benefit the whole system, foster balance, abundance.
Like intelligence in nature, maybe?
Yeah.
Finding equilibrium?
Sort of, yeah. He suggests advanced AI might naturally gravitate towards that kind of systemic well-being. It's a hopeful perspective.
Yeah, it is. But getting there, that transition period sounds like the really tricky part.
Absolutely. He acknowledges that while the long-term vision might be amazing abundance, maybe even brain-computer interfaces, all that stuff, the journey there is packed with risks.
Including more oppression, less freedom, because power is so concentrated.
That's a definite risk he highlights, yeah. Concentrated power enabled by AI could clamp down on freedoms.
Which underlines the need for ethics, strong ethical frameworks.
Totally. It's just the question from just what can we do with AI to the much harder one, what should we do? Ethics have to guide this, not just tech capability or profit.
And he mentions the role of younger generations here.
Yeah, he puts a lot of emphasis on them needing to demand a future that's both abundant and ethical. Learning from maybe mistakes of the past where unchecked growth was prioritized over everything else.
And one more skill we'll all need, telling what's real from what AI generates.
Oh, definitely. Discerning truth from sophisticated misinformation, AI fakes. That's going to be absolutely critical for everyone in the coming years.
So we've really just skimmed the surface here, looking at some of these perhaps under-discussed but really critical AI implications, drawing on Mo Gawdat's perspective. And you can see navigating this isn't just about understanding the tech. It really forces us to look hard at ourselves. Human behavior, our economic systems, global power, all of it.
It really does. And maybe that leaves us with a key question to ponder, right? Given that warning about the incredible speed of change, what do we actually do? What steps, personally and collectively, are needed to prepare?
And fundamentally, what ethical principles should be guiding us as we build and roll out this technology?
Yeah, big questions.
Absolutely. And look, this conversation has to continue. We really encourage you to check out Mo Gawdat's work If this sparked your interest, moga.com, the book Scary Smart, his Substack is moga.substack.com. Keep thinking, keep talking about these issues, because the future with AI isn't just about technology, it's fundamentally human. Your understanding, your engagement, it really does matter. See you soon with another one.